Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm Shalinda, and on this podcast, we bring legends back to life. When Jobs sold Next to Emilio, the CEO, Jobs exuberantly jumped around and was like, we need to go out, we need to have fun, we need to have a glass of wine. Yet, when they eventually did end up doing that, it was a bit of a mismatch, a lot of a mismatch. Emilio brought a bottle of wine that cost like $300, and Jobs took them to a restaurant where the bill totaled about $72. It was quite funny if you think about something like that. A man such as Jobs, who's worth, at that time, multi-millionaire, billionaire even, because after he would sell Pixar and had own 1.7% share in Disney, he was really quite well off. I just find that to be hilarious because at the end of the day, in a way, Steve Jobs can be down to earth and kind of just chillax. And it's hard to imagine that a man who is a multimillionaire would just invite another CEO and take them to a restaurant where the bill totaled a total of $72. Nothing wrong with that or anything at all. It's just funny to picture it. But Emilio's wife thought that Jobs and his wife were charming. And a charmer Jobs was. He was able to charm people whenever he pleased, whether he liked them or not. It's just the way that he got things done, and it was one of his superpowers. Jobs lied to Emilio about holding Apple stock. When Next was sold to Apple, Jobs received some of his payment in the form of stocks. And at the time, Jobs was not yet brought into Apple. He had just only sold his company to Apple. And 6 months, once the stocks, he could officially sell them because he had promised to hold them for at least 6 months. He went out and he dumped all of his stocks. And when Emilio called him and was like, hey, I'm hoping those stocks are not yours, the ones that just came on the market, because we discussed that you would not be putting those on the market. And he was like, yeah, that's right. And Emilio thought, oh, well, that means then we discussed it. Those weren't his. Well, it turns out later, when the SEC filing came out, that Jobs had indeed sold his shares. And it's just one of those things where he lies when it suits him and he gets things done when it suits him. But eventually, when Emilio pressed him about it, he was like, well, I was depressed about the way that Apple was going and I wasn't sure and I was a little bit embarrassed. So that's the reason why I didn't tell you. But when the author of this book, writing this book, would ask him, why did you do that? He's like, I didn't feel the need to tell Gil. So it's just one of those things where it's like he does what pleases him. He does what he needs to do to get the job done. And it really doesn't matter what anyone else wants. And it's just one of those I'm not sure how. It's just an attitude of like the rules of normal life does not apply to him.